The man standing in your doorway isn't smiling. He isn't shouting either. He doesn't have to. He is holding a pillow-shaped piece of dried clay that fits perfectly in his palm, and on that clay are the cuneiform wedges that own you. It's a debt note, 30 shekels of silver, payable upon the return of the harvest fleet. But the fleet didn't return, did it? The fleet is currently sitting at the bottom of the Euphrates, along with your profit margin. In 1750 BC, this moment, this specific quiet terror, is the difference between sleeping on your roof under the stars and being dragged into debt slavery. You don't have a bankruptcy court. You don't have Chapter 11. You have this guy, the collector, and you have exactly 12 hours to turn a bag of scrap metal into enough silver to make him go away. Welcome to Babylon. It's the greatest city on earth. It smells like bitumen, stale beer, and opportunity. But mostly, it smells like anxiety. You think you know the ancient world? You think it's all pharaohs pointing at pyramids and heroes spearing lions? Forget that. That's the highlight reel. The real history is right here, in the sweat, the hustle, and the absolute desperation of a Tuesday morning. So how do you survive the day when the gods are silent and the interest rates are high? You wake up, you scrape the dirt off your skin, and you go to work. The day doesn't start with the smell of coffee or the sound of birds. It starts with the smell of the river. Not the romantic river. The real one. The Euphrates in midsummer is a sluggish, brown beast that carries the silt of the mountains and the waste of the city right past your front door. You roll off your sleeping mat. Your back aches. The heat is already building, a physical weight pressing down on the mud brick walls. Hygiene here isn't about comfort. It's about structural integrity. You need to get yesterday's Babylon off your skin before you can layer on today's. There's no bar of soap. You reach for a jar of oil mixed with alkali, ashes from the Salsola Kali plant. You rub it in. It feels less like washing and more like sanding down a piece of furniture. It strips the grease and the dust, leaving you raw and awake. If you're doing well, and you need to look like you're doing well, you focus on the finish. You take a small stone jar of cypress oil. You work it into your hair and beard, smoothing the strands until they catch the morning light. A polished man is harder to cheat than a dusty one. You look like a man who has silver to spare, even if your pouch is currently screaming otherwise. Somehow, miraculously, you're already fully dressed. Your persona is built, from the loincloth underneath. The kaunakis and that beautiful fringed robe dyed a deep, arrogant madder red. Belt right where you left it. This is the most important part of your anatomy. It holds your bronze knife, because Babylon is safe, but not that safe. And your leather pouch. Inside that pouch is silver, not coins. We don't do coins yet. Just hack silver, broken rings, twisted wire, bits of scrap. Money here isn't counted, it's weighed. Before you leave, you pause at the niche in the wall. The household shrine, your personal god, your ilu. You pour a little date wine into a bowl and watch it soak into the dirt floor. You burn a pinch of cedar resin. It smokes, smelling sharp and expensive. You're trying to keep Lamashtu away, the demoness who brings fever. Does it work? Who knows? But you don't walk out that door without paying your insurance premium to the spirit world. You touch the terracotta bull amulet hanging by the doorframe. Deep breath. Time to enter the meat grinder. Does this sound exhausting? We haven't even had breakfast. Imagine doing this entire routine, the sanding, the wrapping, the bleeding, with a hangover from yesterday's business meeting over warm beer. That is the true Babylonian experience. You step out into the street, and the sensory assault is immediate. Babylon was not planned by a grid-loving urban designer. It grew like a coral reef, messy and organic. The streets are narrow canyons of sun-dried brick, providing shade but trapping the smells. There is no sanitation department. There is a clay pipe coming out of your neighbor's wall that dumps grey water and kitchen sludge directly into the middle of the street. It forms a slow-moving black river of muck that you have to navigate. You dodge a stray dog, one of the city's unofficial cleanup crew. You step around a donkey loaded with grain sacks that is refusing to move, despite the creative cursing of its driver. The soundscape is industrial techno of the Bronze Age, the thwack, thwack, thwack of the fullers beating laundry against stones, the high-pitched clink of the coppersmiths hammering out bowls. You keep your hand on your money pouch. You walk with purpose. In this city, if you look like a tourist, you're prey. If you look like a victim, you're already dead. You need to look like a shark. You arrive at the merchant district. This is it, the main event. You need copper, high-grade stuff to resell to the weaponsmiths uptown. You find a seller sitting on a reed mat, surrounded by bun ingots, round slabs of raw copper. Now, watch the dance. You don't ask the price. That's amateur hour. You start with the greeting. May Shamash give you life. You inquire about his sons, his health, his roof. It's a polite fiction. You don't care, and he knows you don't care. But if you skip this step, you're a barbarian. Then, you crouch. You pick up an ingot. You pull out your knife and you scrape the surface. Hard. You're looking for the color. Is it pure, or has he salted the core with lead or tin to bulk up the weight? You look him in the eye. You gesture at the scratch. You don't say, "You're a thief." You say, "The quality. It reminds me of Ian Asir." The seller flinches. That's the nuclear option. Everyone knows Ian Asir, the copper merchant whose terrible ore made his complaint tablets legendary. Being compared to Ian Asir is like being called the Enron of 1750 BC. If you want to avoid Ian Asir's scams in the future, make sure to subscribe. He acts offended. He swears on the temple. You sigh, looking bored. You invoke the phrase Ana Ittishu, according to the market rate. You haggle. It's not an argument. It's a performance art. You feign walking away. He feigns packing up. Finally, you agree on a price. Now comes the moment of truth. The weighing. He brings out his scale. But you don't trust his weights. Why would you? You reach into your pouch and pull out your own. They are small, polished hematite stones carved in the shape of sleeping ducks. These duck weights are your reputation. They are certified. A 5-shekel duck, a 10-shekel duck. You place the duck on one side. You pile the hack silver on the other until the beam floats perfectly level. Both of you lean in, squinting, sweat dripping off your noses, watching for the slightest tremble that signals a cheat. It balances. The deal holds. You call the scribe. He's the notary, the lawyer, and the hard drive of the operation. He pinches a wet lump of clay into a pillow. He takes a reed stylus and presses it in. Vertical, horizontal, diagonal. He records the weight, the names, the date. Then you sign. You take the stone cylinder hanging around your neck, your cylinder seal. You roll it across the wet clay. It leaves a raised relief, a little picture of a god presenting a king. That is you. That is your legal fingerprint. The scribe wraps the tablet in a clay envelope, and you roll your seal again on the outside. Locked, encrypted, done. Why the envelope? Because people have been forging numbers since numbers were invented. If there's a dispute later, you break the outer envelope to reveal the unaltered original inside. It's two-factor authentication, made of mud. The adrenaline crash hits you by midday. You haven't eaten. You stop at a street stall. No tables, no service, just a guy with a brazier. You buy a skewer. It's glazed in honey, charred over the coals, and crunchy. Locusts. Don't make that face. It's protein. Or maybe you grab a date cake, a dense brick of mashed dates, sesame seeds, and barley flour. It's heavy. It sticks to the roof of your mouth. You wash it down with a clay bowl of beer, It's warm, it's thick, and it's watered down, but it kills the bacteria in your throat. You stand in the shadow of a wall, chewing, watching the crowd. You've made the deal. You have the copper. You have the profit. You make it home as the sun sets. The walls of your house are radiating heat like an oven. You climb the wooden ladder to the roof. This is the only place to be. You lie down on the reed mat. The air is finally cooling. You can hear the city below you, the crying of babies, the murmurs of arguments, the distant chanting from the ziggurat. You reach under your wooden headrest and touch the leather pouch. It's heavier now. You have the silver. The collector will come back tomorrow and you will be ready for him. You bought yourself another moon cycle of breathing this air. It feels like a victory. But as you look up at the stars, the same stars that watch the kings and the beggars, you realize how fragile it is. Tomorrow, the clay will be wet again, and someone else's name will be pressed into it.